الآن يمكنكم المشاركة في مبادرة الأيام الرقمية تحت شعار انطلق بقوة مع جوجل، والتي يتناول فيها خبراء جوجل عناوين جديدة أسبوعيا مثل السحابيات، مهارات من جوجل، أندرويد، فلتر، ذكاء الآلة، فايربيس، ديزاين ثينكينج، مقسمة إلى دورات وورشات عمل يومية بالإضافة إلى مسابقات أسبوعية. شاهد الأيام الرقمية مباشرة على اليوتيوب وشارك رأيك وأسئلتك مع خبراء جوجل، واحصل على شهادة حضور في كل محاضرة تشترك فيها. هذا وأكثر من الأحد إلى الخميس ابتداء من الساعة 9 بتوقيت دبي عبر الرابط المبين youtube.com/gdgmena.
Hey, Assalamu alaikum, Ramadan Mubarak to everyone. Happy to have you here with us. Good evening, good morning, good afternoon, wherever you might be. Welcome to our session today, introducing Google Cloud. And we're going to talk about Google Cloud certifications as well. So we've got like a kind of a packed agenda to go through. So we will start with an introduction to Google Cloud, and we will see what is the driver behind doing this program. By the way, my name is Nabil. I'm a director of training for Google Cloud with Jellyfish. I'm also a Cloud GD in UAE. And I am an organizer with a GDG group here in the Emirates. So we will bring in you a set of series of program to get you started with Google Cloud and help you with your journey with that, and help you with the certification journey. So we'll give you an idea what the certification is all about. And with us is going to be my friend Konrad, who is going to join us after the first session that we're going to go through. So we'll start with introducing Google Cloud. So let me show you a video to just give you an introduction what Google Cloud is all about. So we're gonna basically be watching this video for a short video, 2 minutes, and then we'll get started straight after that.
What is the cloud? It's data.
It's scalable. It's elastic.
It's servers, databases, and hard drives.
But it's bound in physical data centers. We're going to unveil something that completely changes the way you think about cloud. You know public cloud, and you may know private cloud, and you might even know about hybrid clouds and marketing clouds and elastic clouds. But today, now, there's actual cloud.
Introducing Google Actual Cloud Platform.
This is the world's first cloud offering running on servers in the troposphere, inside actual clouds.
It's faster, it's more scalable, it's more secure. And most importantly, it looks like a real cloud.
We're also releasing an industry-first performance feature, Storm Boost.
Storm Boost draws on the power of Mother Nature to give your persistent disks a 50% IOPS boost during thunderstorms.
And you can predict storage performance right from the developer's console by monitoring our new weather dashboard.
Or you could just look out the window.
Google Actual Cloud Platform is the culmination of groundbreaking scientific research on super-cooled water droplets, technological breakthroughs in high-altitude, ultra-low pressure chip design, and operational efficiencies related to the way we run non-terrestrial data centers.
I sleep more soundly knowing that my data is 30,000 feet above the ground.
I just love that I can see it.
This is the first step in an exciting journey. People say the sky's the limit, but we think bigger.
The clouds are so pretty.
That's not just a cloud, honey. That's Google Actual Cloud Platform.
Okay.
All right. So yeah, that was the Google Actual Cloud actually. So now we're gonna see what Google Cloud is all about. So so yeah, introducing the real Google Cloud. So let's start and see what actually looks what does it actually means cloud computing before we talk about Google Cloud, which is basically when we look at the cloud, what does it mean actually? So cloud is obviously very different than when you are working on premises, where you are working on your own environment. So we look into that. What does that actually mean? What are the different service models that we can do with the cloud, and what are some of the common cloud terminology that are in the cloud, like elasticity, fault tolerance, and then what does it mean from business sense to use cloud? So we'll talk about capital expenditure, operational expenditure, and things like that. So when we look at what makes the public cloud useful, there are kind of 5 attributes or pillars that a Google Cloud provider need to satisfy in order to have basically public cloud offerings. So the first thing is a cloud needs to have this concept of on-demand self-service. So you should be able to provision computing capabilities as needed without requiring human interaction with the service provider. So you don't have to go to a service desk or a help desk and request, for example, the virtual machine, which if you are in on premises, it takes a couple of days for an IT to provision that for you, to go through all the process. So it should actually be based all on demand and self-service. And second, you should have access from a broad network access, so that the cloud service should be available through a broad network access using some kind of a standard mechanism, a web standard, for example. And this again says that you should be able to access this using a self-service mechanism, and it should be as simple as using a web console. And thirdly, in the cloud provider environment, the resources need to be pooled, because we are dealing with multi-tenant customers, different customers that they are using these resources that the cloud provider is providing. So this model, which is called the multi-tenant, and we look into what it means when we deal with Google Cloud resources and how they kind of satisfy this kind of attributes for cloud provider. So the resources then, they will be dynamically assigned. They are reassigned according to the demand of this different customers or multi-tenant in the multi-tenant environment. So it also means that the customer in that case will benefit from the economy of scale, because these cloud providers like Google, they will be buying in bulk, which means that Google will pass a huge discount by buying in bulk to the customers. So if the customer needs more resources, can give them more resources, and if they don't need them, they basically give it away and give it back to that pool for somebody else to be using. And the fourth one is rapid elasticity, which actually ties closely with this pooling concept. So capabilities can be elastically provisioned and released in cases that automatically to scale rapidly, either outward or inward, depending on your demand. So if your demand increases, you can get more resources very quickly and elastically. And if the demand is not that much, you can release those resources. So this goes again, it ties really closely with the resource pooling concept. And then finally, the services, they can be monitored, they can be controlled and reported. So you provide this kind of transparency, not just to the customer, but to the provider as well. So everybody knows what's happening. And so this concept as pay as you go or consumption-based pricing, where what you would consume, you only pay for those resources, and you have complete visibility into what you are using and what you are paying for. So these are kind of the 5 pillars or 5 attributes of in a public cloud environment like Google Cloud. So how did we get here? How are we now actually using cloud? So first of all, companies at the beginnings, they were using physical locations, and they moved to or their local computer rooms, and then from there they moved to a new concept, which is co-location facilities. So instead of putting that so much investment or a costly capital-intensive data centers, they were renting places in shared facilities. So they would be sharing power, they would be sharing cooling facilities, networking, and all that kind of stuff. So what that allows them to do, that frees us kind of capital for more flexible uses. So they were investing in the technology rather than in the building. And that was kind of the the trend before the 2000s, basically the year 2000. In the decade that comes afterward, in the 2000s, we moved into the virtualized environment. So companies were looking for more efficiency. So that drove them to use virtualization. So the component, like you see on the slide of the virtual data center, they are exactly the same. So they match the part of a physical data center. You have servers, you will have disks, you will have networking components, you will have memory. But now the difference is that they are virtual devices. They are separately manageable from the underlying hardware. So with the virtualization concept, companies were allowed to use resources more efficiently. And just like colocation, it's more flexible as well. But they are more efficient than the colocation. But with the virtualization, you are still in the business of buying the hardware, maintaining the infrastructure. That is the underlying infrastructure. That's the abstraction of that virtualization that come on top of that. So you're still buying hardware, you're still buying disks, you've been buying storage in order to provision those resources to the abstraction layer that you put for visualization. So you are still guessing how much hardware you will need for the next 6 months, for the next 12 months, and you need to do capacity planning, and you need to buy and be through all that process. And then you need to set it up, and you need to look after it. You need to maintain it, and from patching and make sure that it keeps running. And basically, you still have to manage the storage, the processing, the memory, and the virtual machines, and the updates of their operating systems and all that. So there is a lot of overhead that goes with that as well. So with that trend, companies like Google, for example, they didn't allow them to, with Google innovation, the fast innovation they go with, virtualization wasn't actually with them to be as quick, as agile as it should be. So we're moving to more of a serverless, fully automated systems, moving into microservices, containers, all that technology that Google have basically started, and they were embraced at the early stages. So now, instead of putting a database, for example, on a server, now you will have things like managed services. So you just bring your database and to a managed service, like, for example, in Google Cloud, we have a Cloud SQL, for example. You just bring in your data and let Google manage the infrastructure for you. So you don't have to worry about backups, about patching. You just basically focus and to insights in your data, and basically this is the direction that we're looking at with the trend that all the companies have taken, and this is also taking the trend of big data. So the more that the big data you have, you would like to be more focused on getting more insights of your data, not just basically wasting all the capabilities that you have on running the infrastructure and looking after it. So you want more focus on your data and get insight of that. And speaking about data, one of the things that Google are really good at, and when we start talking about public cloud, is that every company is a data company, whether you are using data internally or you are collecting data for data analytics or for machine learning. You would, in some sort of form, you are a data company. And one of the things that has made Google very popular and it differentiates it from other cloud providers right now is that they have many tools to help a company understand their own data at a very deep level. So it provides you with this analytics capabilities and predictive power with machine learning, and you have a lot of data about your customers. You could use that data to build a better product for them. You kind of leveraging the capabilities that Google Cloud are giving you, from analytics to machine learning, and this has basically been a big part of what Google has been able to provide through a wide range of services for managing and getting value from data at scale. So kind of what are kind of the services that are available for us on Google Cloud? So we've got a wide spectrum of services that are available. So if you are doing a lift and shift and you want to use infrastructure as a service, you want just to bring your servers and use them to start with and see how your application will behave as they were on-prem. you have compute engine, infrastructure as a service. You will be responsible for your VMs. And on the other side of the spectrum, you've got completely managed services for machine learning, for data analytics, and that you can leverage out of the box. You don't have to worry about anything from those services, and Google will manage the infrastructure for you. And in between, you will have some kind of platform as service like App Engine, which is a platform that developers love. So a developer would like to just deploy their code. They don't care about the underlying hardware that is going to be running on it. And App Engine gives them that flexibility and that capability to do so. So they just bring the code, put it to App Engine, and App Engine will take care of the things like scalability, things about managing of backups and patching, all those kind of stuff. It's basically taken care of as a managed service. And obviously, talking about Kubernetes, for example, Kubernetes is, you can see it there in the slide, is like a hybrid model where you will have a managed Kubernetes for you that will take care of managing infrastructure for you, and the brain of the Kubernetes cluster will be taken care of by Google, but you will have access to the nodes of that cluster to deploy your containerized applications into their nodes. So again, Google are taking responsibility for managing Kubernetes for you and let you focus on microservices and your containers to deploy on that cluster. And we have things like Cloud Functions, which is like a serverless, completely logical a logic offering that you have in GCP, which is basically an event-driven function that is basically that will run in a very short period of time, just when it's triggered by an event, and it will do something for you, and it just basically hibernates after that. So you're not paying for the resources after that when you are using. So you basically will bring in you, Google will come to you to whatever level of that transformation that you are at, either from the beginning or the middle, or you are very, very advanced with data analytics and machine learning. And each stage of that, you will have capabilities and services that will allow you to leverage those and be able to use those services as efficiently as possible. And talking about the big picture perspective, Google have put a lot of investment in their infrastructure, and specifically on the networking side. So you can simply put Google as one of the most, if not the most powerful and robust networking infrastructure on the planet. The network traffic that goes over the Google network is more than 40% of the world's internet traffic. And if you really think about it, Google have 7 or 8 applications that are 1 billion plus users, active users. You will have the Chrome, the Google Drive, the Gmail, Google Maps, YouTube, and the last one that made to that list is the Google Photos. So you got 1 billion plus. Actually, I've seen some figures that said YouTube is 2 billion plus users now. So you can imagine, in order to manage all those applications at that scale, your network has really to be capable. It has really to be powerful. It has to be available. Now, the great news is that the very same network that Google used to run those applications is exactly the same one that we are using Google Cloud on. So the customer of Google Cloud are leveraging the same capabilities of that network. So from that, you can see that those black points in there, this kind what we call edge point of presence. So this is the points where you get to the Google network and reach the data centers that are in different regions, which we call zones and regions that we're going to talk about. So from those, there is 130 points of presence where you are allowed to be closer to the Google network, to get to the Google network and leverage all the services. So you will be basically as close as possible to lower the latency to leverage Google Cloud services. And driven by that, obviously the cabling that goes with that network. So Google has purchased a company that is specialized in subsea cables. So all the cables are basically the technology is owned by Google, and the network is owned by Google. So talking about regions and zones, so let's take a closer look at the networking infrastructure, so on Google Cloud. So there are mainly 3 primary components that we're going to take a closer look at, and there are regions and zones and edge points of presence that I've just mentioned. So the region basically is a city somewhere in where these data center exists. So it will be like a campus of different data centers, and the zones, and they are basically data centers. So regions are simply a collection of zones. And typically a region consists of 3 or more zones in a single region. So you will find in this example, for example, on the slide, Europe West 2A, B, and C. So these are the zones in a particular region, which is Europe West 2. And those are kind of data centers that are next to each other. So the zone is a deployment area or a deployment scope for Google Cloud resources inside of a region. And it's kind of, you look at it, it's kind of a nested format in which you will have typically 3 or more zones in a given region. And these zones are multiple individual data center buildings in the same geographical region. What that means, for example, is that a region such as we see Europe West 2 will have 3 data centers that are next to each other, but they are completely segregated in terms of cooling and power and networking. So if one data center goes down, you can fail over to the next one. So a zone on its own is considered to be a single point of failure, and that's why if one data center goes down, you can basically fail over to another one. So you get highly available applications that can leverage this design. So how does it look like? So this is a Google data center in the Netherlands. So this is the campus that we were talking about for the region. So this is particularly a region, and those are kind of the zones that you can see here. So you've got 3 buildings. So these are basically three zones in one region. So because the network of Google is so capable, they're allowed. They thought strategically about that design to having data centers next to each other. Because from disaster recovery point of view, people might think, well, if they are so close to each other, if that area is gone, then you lose everything. But remember, the network of Google is so capable, you can actually fail over to completely different region. So in terms of high availability, this design is more efficient, because if you think about it in terms of if you have like a natural disaster, God forbid you have an earthquake, it doesn't matter how many miles you're away. If you are 30 miles away or 40 miles away, that city most likely you're going to lose the both data centers. So the idea of highly available data centers in different regions, because the network and the latency is so capable, is so efficient, you can fail over to completely different regions. So you might be having a campus in Netherlands. Easily you can fail over to for example to Belgium or Switzerland, and the front end application won't even notice that you failed over, or the users won't even won't see that as happening if you automate that process. And some applications in GCP, they are actually the failover is automatic as well. So even from one data center to a data center, or you can automate that to fail over to different regions. So let me just show you an example of how that works. So if I just briefly share my so what I'm going to do here. Okay, let me make that screen bigger. So just briefly to show you all the regions that are available for Google. So to start with, so the Google Cloud locations. This is a good reference point. You will find always the latest update in terms of regions and zones. So here we say we have 25 regions. Actually, maybe 10 days ago, a week ago, there was 24. But we have a new region that opened recently, which is in Poland. So now it's 25. So it brought its 3 zones with it. So we have now 76. So here you can see regions. So anything that is in, let me just make this a little bit bigger. So anything you see here in blue, these are the available zones or the campuses that we talked about. So you've got Europe, you've got North America. So anything that is in blue, and this is the Warsaw that, like I said, 10 days or 1 week ago, it was white. Now it's live, and you can see that there are more regions that are coming. Specifically in our region here in the Middle East, the one that's coming up next, hopefully, is the Doha in Qatar. So we're looking forward for that to open. And you've got Delhi in obviously in India, Madrid, Milan, Toronto in Canada. So all those. So you can see that Google are aggressively investing in the infrastructure, to opening new data centers, to be globally available. So the Middle East are coming up really kind of very, very strongly in there, with the Qatar one expected to be coming up soon. So usually when you see it white, usually we're thinking about 18 months, 12 months before it goes to be really high available, and it will turn to blue. But obviously with the COVID situation and stuff, this has delayed things for everyone. So these are kind of how it looks like, and this is the network. So always the subsea cables, and Google are still investing very, very strongly in there. So there is things coming up in 2022, linking to the US, to the UK and Spain, and cables all over the place, like you see. So very, very highly available. So let's look at what that means in terms of, we talked about regions and zones. So I'll just give you a feel of the Google Cloud Console. So this is how it looks like. So in general, so in particular, I'm interested in VM instances. So I'm just going to create a couple of VMs just to illustrate the capabilities of the network that we were talking about. Okay, I'm going to quickly create a couple of machines here. So I'm going to call this for today's event, GDG 01. So I'm going to create it in, let's say, in the Netherlands. You know, the ones that we will see in the picture. It's got 3 data centers. I'm going to just pick one of them, and I'm going to go with the defaults. I'm going to put it in a network. I'm going to select one of the networks here. And I'm going to create a second one here. And I'm going to put it in a completely different region. So let me make this a little bit bigger so you can see. Okay, so the first one was in the Netherlands. I'm going to put this Belgium, for example. So a completely different region. I'm going to pick up any of those zones, which is a data center, and I'm going to put it in the same network. Now, one of the differentiator of Google Cloud over other cloud providers is that the network is global resource. So I can easily create 2 resources in 2 different regions on the same network, not on different networks, which is super useful and super efficient. So I didn't call it properly. So I've got this one is the second machine. I put it on the same network. So what I'm going to do, I'm going to SSH to one of them. So this is the one in Belgium. And let's say I've got an application that is running on here, on that data center in that particular region. And so for whatever reason, that region is gone for whatever reason. We haven't seen it happen ever on GCP. Complete region goes away. Okay, so I'm on that machine. So what I'm going to do here, I'm just going to ping the other machine just to show you. Was it that? And look, I've got these two machines that are completely two different regions, two different countries, Netherlands and Belgium. And look at the latency. The latency is sub 8 milliseconds, which is insane when you talk about networks. I used to be disaster recovery consultant, and we have to have data centers that are 30, 40 miles, 50 miles away. And you will see latency like this, and you will never get latency for around that. So you can see here how capable is the Google network that we were talking about. So you can with that latency, you can fail over, and your users don't notice any issues in terms of latency like that. And it's highly available. And you can see here we created a couple of VMs in less than 20 seconds, both of them, and I can now SSH to them from my console, and I'm ready to basically leverage anything that I want to do on those with my application, my resources, and things like that. So this is what I was showing you earlier. So this is like the map that we looked at, the different regions. And as I said, because I'm based here in the UAE, exciting times ahead with Google basically aggressively investing in the region. So Google Cloud is becoming one of the big players in the region, and hopefully for you guys who are interested in their career in Google Cloud, this is the time to invest your time to upscale in Google Cloud, with the Google investing in the region very, very heavily, which means it's going to open opportunities in the region in terms of jobs. So those skills will be in the big demand. So that's what I can tell you on this one. So from all the capabilities that Google has, so they are very, very committed to the environment. So a recent study that I've seen, maybe from 2006, not that recent, but this is the only thing that I can find. 2016, something like that, Google had in excess of 2.5 million servers worldwide. So you can imagine with that, you're going to need a tremendous amount of energy. And Google has made consistent commitment to 100% renewable energy, like solar, like wind, and they have been zero carbon footprint since 2007, 100%. So because they use their custom-built servers with high efficiency to basically lower the energy cost, but also to reduce the CO2 emissions. So they are kind of committed to that. And with the investment, they keep investing, so they keep in that balance right in terms of zero carbon footprint, even though they've been investing in the US with a lot of data centers, and in Europe as well recently with Madrid coming up, and with Poland also just been active now, and in the Middle East now as well. So a lot of investment that's happening. So for example, the Netherlands one, it was like 1.5 billion investment to put that region. So you can imagine the scale that and how committed are Google to that as well. And with that, they offer a wide range of discounts. So they were the first ones to be billing at the second level. So after 1 minute, you will be billed at 1 second increments. There is discount for sustained use. So if you after a period of time, after 25% of the use of a virtual machine, for example, of the month, you start seeing discounts automatically. And if you have like workloads that you are committed to for 1 year, 3 years, you get discounts for that as well. And they've got some special machines they call preemptible machines, which are kind of special machines that they've got no SLA, they're not guaranteed over 24 hours, but you do get 80% discount on over normal machines, and which makes them very, very kind of capable of running small batch jobs that run for an hour or two. So this is where they are capable. That they are. We've seen a lot of use cases to use them, not for kind of web front applications or anything like that. Just when I cluster that needs to run for a couple of hours, preemptible machines will help you to reduce the cost by 80%. And then you have custom VM instances. So let me show you that briefly on the console. So so if I create a virtual machine, what you get here is you have a wide range of selections of the type of machines that you want to select. But sometimes, let me show you here. So the machine type here, you can see here, I can select the CPU and memory. So I've got a wide range of selection from high memory, high CPU. So if I've got like in-memory database like HANA, SAP HANA, for example, I will be looking at high memory machines and things like that. But sometimes, for example, my application, I know that my requirements not really fits in any one of those. Maybe it fits in between 4 vCPUs or 8 vCPUs and 16. Maybe I just need 8 vCPUs. So if I go and use 8 vCPUs, my performance of the application will get a hit. And if I go above that, if I go for 16, I would be over provisioning. So I will be using more than, I will be paying for more what I need. So what Google have made is these custom machines, and it's very unique to Google Cloud. So with a slider, you can see here, I can select my 10 vCPUs, I can select my memory that I want, exactly what I wanted, and I'm ready to go. So I'm not over provisioning, which means it makes it from a cost perspective very, very efficient. I'm not affecting my performance of my application. So these are the custom machines, which is unique to GCP. So it's another differentiator over the other cloud providers. And obviously, Google, they are very, very kind of encouraging for the open source. So open source means that customers can leave. They're not tied in. So if you want to leave Google Cloud after 2 years, 3 years, for whatever reason, you're not tied in because everything is open source. You take your workloads, you run them on the same technology somewhere else. But having said that, we're not talking about just leaving Google Cloud, because we haven't seen customers coming to Google and going. It makes it open source makes it easy to come into Google Cloud as well. So you just bring your workload and you run it on GCP. So an example of that would be, for example, something that comes to mind, Hadoop. Hadoop is a very complicated clusters that you can run on-prem. It takes a lot of kind of expertise that you need to maintain, and if you want to reconfigure the Hadoop cluster, for example, it's a nightmare to do. In GCP, you have a fully managed service, which is Dataproc. So you can just bring any workload in Hadoop and you can run it, and the cluster is run for you by GCP, and it's brilliant. It's super efficient. So a lot of technologies in GCP, they open source, and Google, they already started that technology themselves. So Cloud Bigtable, which is Apache HBase based, Dataproc is Hadoop, Kubernetes, GKE is open source. So GKE is based on Kubernetes, and we know all that the Kubernetes technology was started by Google themselves. They made it available to the community. TensorFlow is also another technology for machine learning that Google were involved with, and they started the technology and made it available to the community. Forseti Security is another one that it hasn't been started by Google, but Google are part of it. So it's like a collaboration with Forseti to run that open source. And obviously you have multi-vendor friendly technologies like the Google, which is now called the Cloud Operations Suite, the Stackdriver, the previous name, and Kubernetes Engine, which basically the managed Kubernetes source. So yeah, makes it really efficient and super useful for companies and users to come to GCP and leverage the capabilities of those open source technologies. Security is one of the most important parts in Google Cloud, and Security is the DNA of Google. So when Google design a new service, the first thing they think about is security, and then they build the capabilities around that. And I mean, if you have an on-prem, nobody will have the capabilities in terms of investment to have a more secure system than what Google Data Center might have or their application. But at the end of the day, security is always a shared responsibility. I mean, Google will be responsible for the hardware infrastructure, for the things like encryption of data everywhere on transit or on at rest. The front end denial of service is always, they've got capabilities in there in terms of services that are available on their load balancers, which are global. So anything, and even in the hardware design, they've got a Titan security chip that runs on their hardware. So it's only anything that runs on there, it only runs on that hardware. So without that chip, nothing will run. So they are very, very secure in terms of operations, in terms of hardware. But again, there is some responsibility that lies with the customer. So if you have a storage bucket in GCP and you make it public, you are responsible for making it public and having access to everyone to access it. So Google, they give you the tool, they give you the best practices, and you basically follow those best practices to have a secure system. So why do we choose Google Cloud Platform? It is global, it is cost effective, it's open source friendly, and it is designed for security. It's scalable. We talked about the 7 or 8, 1 billion plus applications that run on that reliable, scalable, secure infrastructure. So why would you go somewhere else? So is the best choice if you ask me. So this is kind of a wide range of services that we have on GCP. So from compute services, you have Compute Engine, which is like VMs, Kubernetes Engine, which is Kubernetes platform, App Engines that we talked about, and Cloud Functions. You will have storage services, database services for different uses, Bigtable, cloud storage for blob storage, relational databases on Cloud SQL, Cloud Spanner for global reach, and Cloud Data Store for document databases as well. And on top of that, you will have capabilities for big data, BigQuery, fully managed petabyte scale data warehouse, pops up the messaging system, Dataproc Hadoop managed service, and then you've got a loads of kind of machine learning capabilities with fully managed and pre-trained models that you can leverage and use out of the box to start with. So you don't have to be a machine learning engineer in order to start playing with machine learning. Google has already put something in place for you to get you started. Unless you need something very, very customized, then they give you like things like a platform to be able to develop those machine learning models with TensorFlow and things and other capabilities. Okay, so this is kind of in a nutshell, a top high level Google Cloud. What is it about? Not the Google actual that we've seen on the video, but basically just an overview what Google Cloud is all about. Now, as a GDG community, basically we're starting this program with a series of introduction to the Google Cloud Platform. So we're bringing you this technology at your fingertips, and we have what is called Cloud Study Jams. So Cloud Study Jams, all the services that we've looked, we've got like we will have a series of hands-on labs, and we're going to introduce a series of different services, either in machine learning, data analytics, or Kubernetes. And each one of those areas with these capabilities, there are specific study jam that goes with them. So what we have here, so a study jump is basically a learning program that is done for the community. So developers, they come together and they have these meetings and they practice together those capabilities. And Google Cloud or Google, they provide you with a platform which is a quick labs with all the capabilities to have a proper environment where you can practice and learn more by these hands-on labs. So we have like a different tracks. So the first track is infrastructure and architecture. So you will have GCP essentials, where you will see virtual machines, the networks, the Kubernetes. There is a track for deploying applications with App Engine and Kubeflow and deploying on Kubernetes, RPG Edge, and then you have cloud architecture. So more getting into the CI/CD, more into the networking, and they are at different levels. You can see here you got introductory or medium level or experienced. So each track will have different levels. Obviously, we're going to start from introductory level, and then we build on that till you upscale and you get good skills in whatever track you are interested in. So again, Kubernetes, security, networking, Kubernetes solutions. And then you have machine learning and data. So machine learning and AI, language processing, image processing, TensorFlow, GCP, machine learning infrastructure, machine learning APIs. So all those capabilities you will be able to do in this study jumps that we will be doing on a monthly basis, hopefully. And then data analytics. So BigQuery is a big one. So BigQuery for data analysts, for warehousing, for marketing analysts. And you can see introductory, intermediate experience. So we will be doing all those tracks over the next few months. So I'll tell you is join our group, which is if you Google it, GDG Cloud Emirates, and you register in there, you get updates of those events that we have, not on study jumps, but we will be having events talking about the technologies of Google Cloud going forward. And with that, I would like to introduce our second speaker. So you want to upscale, as I said, exciting times are coming in the regions and all the regions in terms of Google Cloud. So in order to differentiate yourself in the market, you need certifications. For example, give you an example, the Google Architect, I think Konrad is going to talk about that anyway, is the most valued kind of in terms of pay packet in the market is the Google Cloud Architect, professional architect. So all those skills that you gain will basically help you to get certified in any of those areas. So one of the, I think I need to introduce Konrad. Konrad is, I used to work with him in the UK for Atos. I think he's the only one in the world who's got 11 certification in GCP, which is like insane. I don't know how he does that. I keep trying to catch up with him, but I've never managed to do that. I am on 9, he's on 11. So without further ado, I'll introduce Konrad. Thank you.
Yeah. Hi, Nabil. Thanks for the invite.
Konrad. Thank you. Thank you for making the time.
Always. Okay, so shall I just take over the screen?
Yeah, let me stop sharing. And okay, I've stopped. The stage is yours.
Yep. Yes, just give me a shout where. Give me a shout when you can see my screen.
Yeah, I can. Yeah. So one more thing is that Konrad has published, is an author of a GCP book. So Google it, you will find it. Sorry, that's my last point. Over to you. Sorry.
Okay, thanks, Nabil. Okay, so this presentation we actually do with Brian Gerard very often because he's the co-author of the book and very good friend of mine. Nabil knows Brian very well.
Yeah, Brian. Yeah, of course. Yeah,
well, great guy. So we are actually working together on this book that helps people to pass the GCP architect exam. And hopefully maybe we'll have Brian hosted here as well when we get the new version. Okay, guys, so what I want to show you today is the portfolio of the exams. So we can see all the 11 exams, how to approach them. We'll have a closer look at Cloud Architect exam, which is for me is the very much essential and the starting point for your journey in the certification. I'll give you some personal tips that I have for passing those exams. So, tips and tricks, and then we can have hopefully some time for questions. So I guess we can put questions in the YouTube chat, and, if you will monitor it, I can answer them as we go. Okay. Perfect. So just wanted to let you know who I am. So I've been with Atos for a very long time. It's all been going to be 11 years right now. I have background in networks, server management, virtualization, and public cloud. So I specialize mainly in infrastructure, whether it was the infrastructure on-prem, in cloud. And now, actually, we're coming back to on-prem, having Atos being able to run everywhere, even in your own data center. This is something that I really work on. These days, I work as a lead architect for Digital Cloud Services, GCP. So this is our offering where we accelerate our customer journey to GCP by providing a streamlined, secure GCP landing zone. This is according to Google best practices. Everything is infrastructure as a code, automated, so we can jump into the customer project, set everything up, so that the customer can be sure that the infrastructure that he will be using in GCP is properly secured. It has the monitoring, and it has all the services around it, that they're getting the enterprise-grade service. Okay. I do a couple of things in Atos as well. I'm now actually distinguished cloud expert. I work for the scientific community where we look for the future of the strategy of which technologies we're going to invest in. But I'm also try to give back to the community. So lead of the cloud developer group in Bydgoszcz, Poland. We work very closely with the GDG Warsaw, so we have a lot of sessions. If you want to check some of them are really exciting, especially the ones related to ML. And our special guest was showing how to actually do ML live on the edge. A lovely session. I really encourage you to have a look at this. And as Nabil was saying, I'm also the book author. There's something coming soon, but I can't really give you the exact date when it will come up. But there will be a book that we co-author with Google on Antos, so it will come soon. Okay, so let's have a look at the paths. So this is very subjective. This is how my journey looked like and how I foresee it. It's not necessarily according to the path that Google is suggesting. It's just how I feel you should approach it. Yeah, so from my experience. So when we start here, I would say the first exam is the cloud architect or cloud architect or cloud engineer. I personally think that you should start with cloud architect because it gives you a complete overview of all the services from a high level when you are able to choose the service for your particular use case. The other exam, cloud engineer, is very much focused on operating GCP. So it concentrates a lot on the CLI, how you actually monitor infrastructure, how you operate it. So, for example, monitoring is one of the very important part of it. So this will be for an engineer that operates GCP, while the cloud architect is for a cloud solution architect that's supposed to design and choose which services should be used for a particular use case. Let's move to the left-hand side, which is an optional path. So for those who work on delivering workspace to your users, and this might be everything around emails, Google Workspace, Chromebooks, etc. The collaboration engineer is like an equivalent of what you would have in the old times of having Exchange, Active Directory management. Yeah? So it's kind of equivalent. So it's like an engineer that takes care of the back end of what our end users are using. And there is another exam. This is actually deprecated. It's on the user side of it, right? So how to use the G Suite tools. Well, G Suite have been rebranded to Workspace. That's why this exam has been deprecated. It's still valid. It counts towards, the total of the certification that you get, but you can't take it anymore. Okay, the next path, which I think is also optional, especially for those who mainly work with infrastructure, maybe they want to jump into other streams, but this is all about managing data, processing data. Yeah? So here you start with the data engineer. This is obviously covering some of the topics from the cloud architect. Cloud architect covers all those GCP services. Data engineer concentrates on data processing, as I was saying. Yeah, so tools like BigQuery, Bigtable, Spanner, etc. And you need to basically know how to use those tools to process the data. And this is, I would call, like an entry exam for the machine learning engineering. So this is, for me, that's the cherry, cherry on the cake. It was extremely difficult as I had no background in machine learning, so I actually had to look at the basis of machine learning, and understand also how Google democratizes machine learning in GCP. And when you take this exam, I think it's really good to at least study for this exam. Look at the study guides, because you can understand how many services there are to do machine learning and how easy it is. So, to be honest, I don't think you really need to leverage machine learning and to develop models. You don't really need to be a data or a machine learning engineer, right? Because it's so easy. Obviously, I'm not talking about very, very sophisticated scenarios, but building a sample model that can recognize images is fairly simple with AutoML, for example. Okay. If you don't decide for the data engineer or you're done with it, you can have a look at the stream which I called network and security path. So those exams are very, very similar. So for example, if you look at the network and security, there are topics that overlap. So firewall rules, for example, they're both a network topic, but they're also a security topic, right? So I would say those two overlap. I remember I took those as beta exams 2 years ago. I have renewed them already because I had to do it. You have to renew it every 2 years. But those topics are very similar. So start with networking, then you might go for security. I wouldn't say they're such a deep dive. And probably this is because we're in public cloud and those are managed services. So usually a lot of burden from what you had on-prem is taken away from you. So you just need to know how those services should be used. And DevOps path. This is something that is quite challenging as well, because you need to really know the concepts of SRE, SLO, SLIs. So everything around making sure that your applications can run both securely, but with the right performance. So this is all about the DevOps practice. And there's also the cloud developer exam. And this is one of the exams that has been updated recently. Before it was very much similar to the cloud architect exam, I must admit, with some more scope maybe on application development. But recently, the new version is very much concentrated on cloud-native technologies, which is Kubernetes, Cloud Run, Anthos. So I think taking this exam, if you look at it, I think everyone that takes this passes this exam, I would be pretty much confident that they understand very well the cloud-native services that there are in GCP to run the workloads, including Kubernetes. Actually, even checking your knowledge of Kubernetes itself, not the GKE only. Okay, so those have some overlap. So I would put it in the same path. If you pass developer exam, why not looking at DevOps? Maybe even in the same month or in the period of 2 months. And in the end, we have this hybrid cloud path, which is actually a single exam, completely different from all those exams. All those exams are theory. They are actually, you can either take them on-prem or you can take them in the examination center, or you can take them online. This one, when I was in the pilot of this, I actually had to travel to US. It consisted of 2 parts. The first part was very exhausting, 9 hours of laboratories. So you have like week labs, and you get scenarios, and you actually need to deploy certain or configure certain services on Antos. Now I think it's much shorter. I think it's like 3 hours. And in the end, you get to talk to some experts from Google that work with hybrid deployment scenarios, and they would give you a design scenario which you need to actually tackle, right? Explain why you make such design decisions, defend it, talk about how the project will look like, identify the risk, challenges. So essentially, this is like an interview where you talk to the customer, and the customer has a challenge of running a workload in a hybrid mode, multi-cloud scenarios, and you need to help them and make sure that you make the right choices. Okay, so that's the summary of the full path. So let's talk about Cloud Architect exam, which is the entry one. Yeah? So you're expected to know the services from the high level. Yeah? You need to understand how you design them, secure, operate them, and monitor. And monitoring is extremely important in all of the exams, and security, so especially the EM. I think every single exam is asking about what permissions you can assign for a particular service, what are the least needed privileges, because Google takes the security very, very seriously, and monitoring. So there are always questions about how you monitor those services, how you monitor your application. I have a feeling that the general IT knowledge is really required for this exam. So I think there are a couple of questions that are asking about services outside of Google, like things like Jenkins, for example. Yeah? So the CI/CD platforms, I think some of this experience, you expect that there will be 2 or 3 questions that might be a little bit challenging your knowledge of general IT. An important thing, there are case studies. So around 20% of those questions are on case studies. You see the case studies up front. You can look them up on the website, and you can get prepared for them up front. So those cases are around enterprises that have particular challenges. They have the business and technical requirements, and you will get questions related to those. Okay. Important thing, there are no prerequisites for the exam, right? So even though I showed you the path, you can take them in any order, whenever you want. If you just specialize in networking, you can go just for one exam. The fee currently is $200. The exam is, I think most often is 2 hours long. I think all of them are 2 hours long. You might enroll for the beta exam. If it's available, then usually it's half the price. So I was taking a lot of those. You can also reschedule the exam. I think it's 72 hours, but please check it online, because that changes. But so if you don't change or cancel the exam within this time period, you will just simply lose your money. You can navigate the exam as it suits you, so you can mark the questions that you're not sure of and come back to them whenever you want. I think the biggest problem I have with those exams is that you get no pass mark. So you either passed or failed, and you get no feedback. This unfortunately hasn't changed for a while. Could be possibly frustrating, but not if you don't want to really care about it. Just you just need to pass the exam then, and everything's right. Okay, how it works? You have this link here that you can click, and you will access the web assessor page where you can actually schedule your exam. You can choose from on-site or protected one. You go further, you choose the date when you want to take the exam. Just be cautious about the hour you choose. Whether I actually had once taken an exam at midnight, which is very embarrassing story because I confused the hour. So I actually didn't show up at the exam because it was the day before. Which, from time perspective, it's funny. At that time, I wasn't really happy. What's needed for the remote testing? A webcam and a really stable internet connection. Fortunately, those are just forms, so it's not like the Kubernetes exam where all the delays to the console produces a problem. So, but yeah, make sure that you have stable connection. It's delivered via an app. You need to upload it on your computer. Make sure that if you use your company computer, your policies for your laptops allow for it. I had some challenges with this, so I was using my private laptop. The image from your laptop will be captured. The webcam needs to be started, and there will be a person that will be watching you through this exam. You can talk to the person via chat. You can't talk to them via audio. You have a help button where you can ask for help. And expect that there might be some delays. I heard that there were people waiting for 20 to 30 minutes for the protector to show up. Yeah, so please don't give up, don't get frustrated. There are a lot of people that want to take those exams. I think, especially if I took the exam runs on Saturday, which is a free day in Poland, and it was very fast. So I didn't wait at all for the person to show up. So very much depends on when you take it. If you take it in the rush hours, that will be challenging. Okay, how would you prepare for this? There are obviously official courses from Coursera, plural sites. There are a couple of courses I would be using as an entry for those, but those might be changing. New ones are being developed, so probably you might want to review them. There might be reviewed right now. Maybe there are some new versions. Especially, I have seen that for the data engineer, the courses have improved significantly through those 2 years. I remember they were very basic when I started learning GCP. Now it's very much advanced. Okay, different resources. The official exam guide. My personal feeling is that it could be slightly improved. That's one of the reasons why we actually wrote the book, to actually show you exactly what you need to learn for the certification, because this is very general. It's talking about a lot of topics that don't actually appear in the exam. So yeah, we actually offer like a free chapter of our book, so you can actually have a look at all the services that you would be asked on the exam. The free tier account, yeah, just please be cautious about this, because you're putting your credit card there for the free tier. You would definitely do some labs first with things like quick labs rather than try free tier, especially when you enable billing. You already are paying, right? So if you don't know how much it will cost, if you don't feel comfortable, please be cautious about this. The practice exam, I really like it because it always there are practice exams for multiple certification. I think almost all of them right now, and I use them to find out if I'm ready for the exam. Don't expect those questions to appear in the exam, but they're really good to find out your weak areas. So I do this exam, I mark the things I don't feel comfortable with, and study those areas. And finally, our study guide, Professional Cloud Architect, Google Cloud Certification Guide. So this is the book that we wrote a year ago with Brian, because we couldn't find anything really on the market that would be helping people to take this exam, so we accepted the challenge. We are actually working on the new edition because there is a new version of the exam coming. I took the beta of it. I kind of understood what the scope is, and as we speak, we're updating this with Brian. So if you're gonna, I still feel like this book is covering 70% of the exam, maybe even 80%. But we don't want to leave people with the feeling that the book is outdated. But it's obviously taking its time because it needs to be reviewed, and then it needs to be edited and published finally. So it's taking its time. So be patient, and we'll announce it soon. Okay, quick labs. Another tool, I was mentioning this already. So you can run a scenario in GCP and basically test different services with this. So very, very useful tools. You don't pay, you just pay the credits for the quick labs. You don't actually pay for usage of GCP. And after an hour, the whole infrastructure is shut down and it's not incurring any more costs. Okay, some quick tips for the success. What worked for me: if you decide to take the exam, register the same day, quickly set the date, and then you will be more motivated. Book the exam at the time that you're most alerted. Sometimes it's difficult. I try to book it in the morning where I'm most alerted. Get all your materials in place. So when I try to study for an exam, I try to gather as much material as I can so that I have it handy. Whenever I have a free time, I take the book. I take my bookmarks, check my bookmarks with the articles I wanted to read, and there are no excuses. Get some support from your family, boss, colleagues, right? This is some commitment. So, I feel like for me, it's kind of business as usual taking those exams, but for exams like machine learning, I really took 4 months to study. So you need really to have someone support you with this and have family understand that this is something you want to achieve. Plan your study properly. Understand when you will be learning, how much you have left, and aim for. Oh, sorry about this. There's a typo. Aim for the passing the exam on the first attempt. Right? We don't want to get frustrated. We don't really want to lose our time. So don't just take the exam to try it out. Try to feel a little bit more comfortable. Yeah, just passing the exam doesn't give you, even if you pass it, but you don't feel comfortable, it's not such a great satisfaction. And in the end, we want to use those services in practice. Okay, so that's it. That's me. I hope those tips are helping you to start your journey. Nabil, you're with us?
Yeah, I'm here. Yeah, thank you so much for that, Konrad. I'm just checking any questions in the chat. We'll wait for those. But I've got a couple of questions for you, Konrad.
Yeah, go ahead.
First one is your certification journey. Obviously, it looks super awesome. It's unbelievable, the achievement that you've done. How did it actually impact your job, your career? What impact has it got on your career? If you could share that with us.
Oh, it helped me massively. So I'm being recognized a lot in the company for this. So when I started studying GCP like 3 years ago, right? So we didn't have so much chances of working with GCP at that time because customers were not really convinced using GCP because it was something completely new for them, and they considered it wasn't really enterprise ready. But as I got more certification, I was able to prove that I actually have the knowledge. And it's not only about getting certified. It's about the knowledge that you get when you get certified, right? So you are the person to go to, and you can really prove it. There's actually no discussion about your capabilities if you're certified within the company, because you can see that there's so many people trying to take those exams and trying to pass those exams, but not everyone is successful, doing it, unfortunately, because some of them are very tough, right? So I really feel that people who pass the exams, right, and especially because for GCP, my feeling is that those, change a lot, and they're not as, my feeling is that there are no, dumps for those exams, etc. That people that pass it, they really have the knowledge. Right? So it really, my journey was from, being an on-prem architect into being the lead architect.
Yeah. So you progress massively in your job in terms of scale,
definitely.
and so now I can see that you are in a senior role. So I know like Atos is a big company, and you've got a lot of demand for work for GCP, and I'm sure you are involved in recruitment side. So when you look at CVs for GCP jobs, how this certification kind of impacts somebody to be selected for, at least for an interview to start with?
Well, it's the first thing we look at, right? If someone took the effort. For me, it's a commitment, right? If someone, we actually, just to tell you, within the company, we are even asking people, if people want to work with us, we ask them to do the certification first.
Right.
To prove it that they really want to do this job, that they really have the passion for it, right? So if someone externally, especially people, that don't get this sponsored, take those exams, right? It means that they really care. What I'm looking for is the people that really are passionate about this work, right? So it shows some commitment.
And we've seen some occasions where customers, the clients themselves, if you have like a GCP project you work on, they will ask from you certified people to work on their environment. So
it's especially, we have 2 certified fellows in the company. And we can, there is no question that we can deliver hybrid scenarios for our customers, right? Because Google approved that, right? They indicated we went through a very difficult process to get approved by Google. So it's definitely customers are asking for it, and they start to recognize it. And actually, you probably know that, but Google recognizes the certified people a lot, right? With swags, with some special events. It's what's quite surprising when we have been to US and we had some special seats just for the people who are certified.
Exactly. And the medals and
It's small things, but they appreciate certified people, right? And I haven't seen this with other vendors at all, or cloud providers.
Yeah, definitely. I definitely agree with that. And my last question is, obviously you've got the Google region opened in Poland. Now, in the Middle East, we are in the same situation. So Qatar is coming up very soon. So what is potentially happening into the market? How does that impact kind of opportunities and openings from both customers and for people who are upscaling and getting certified and things like that? So how do you see what the situation in your region at the moment? And how can you see envisage going forward?
It is big. It is really big, because those were the problems. And it's not only for our country, but it's for the whole region of the Baltic countries, where there was no Google region, right? So now the companies are really interested in because this is the only public cloud provider in the region, right? So we have a lot of interest. There has been already interest because it was announced a long time ago. We actually have, our government being very interested in moving into the companies that are connected to government really want to move there. We actually have, it's approved. Our biggest Polish bank is moving to GCP. Yeah. So this means something. If
Wow.
a financial institution of this kind is moving to GCP, it gives a clear signal to all the companies in Poland that is the right direction.
Exactly. And for obviously for Google to put so much investment in the region, it means they have, you know, they know the potential. So
well, to be just you know, so something that's really interesting is that there is a massive R&D center in Poland. I just realized that a year ago that Google is building a massive R&D. Kubernetes is being developed in Poland. GKE, Anthos, Cloud Functions. Those things are being developed locally.
Exactly. So just talking about Anthos is taking a big kind of, your company has taken a big
Anthos is massive. Anthos is massive.
So that you have like a big kind of contract in the Middle East with Anthos. So
yeah, we do.
Yeah, yeah. So
I think it's not going to be the only one.
Yeah, exactly. So for Google Cloud, similar to Poland in the Middle East, is exciting times ahead. There is a lot of opportunities and exciting opportunities that is a lot of openings that are going to come in the future. So this is the time to upskill your and bring your skills up to scratch with Google Cloud, and a program like what we're doing here. So we've got these sessions that we do in MENA, and if you want to know more about the sessions that we do, just subscribe to GDD MENA or to our group, GDG Cloud Emirates. And we will be doing all those sessions, and we'll be bringing you speakers to the level of Konrad. So we don't get those very often. So Konrad, thank you so much for being with us today. Really appreciate you making the time. And I can't see any other questions. Thanks very much, everybody, and happy learning. Thank you.
Thank you.
Have a nice evening. Assalamu alaikum. Bye bye.